Hey everyone, welcome back. So here's something happening right now that affects basically everyone watching this. AI needs memory to run. Your phone needs memory to run, and there isn't enough for both. The same silicon wafers that go into your smartphone's memory are being redirected to build something called HBM, the special memory that powers every major AI data center on the planet. The result? Smartphone prices just hit an all-time record, consumer brands are being killed off, and there's no relief in sight until at least 2028. Let's break down exactly how this happened and what it means for your next phone. To understand this crisis, you need to understand the memory wall. When AI models run, the biggest bottleneck isn't the math, it's moving data between memory and the processor. The chip just sits there waiting. So the industry built a solution called HBM, high bandwidth memory. Instead of flat chips on a board like your phone uses, HBM stacks 8 to 16 layers of memory vertically, connected by thousands of tiny copper wires punched straight through the silicon. A single HBM3 stack delivers around 819 gigabytes per second. Standard DDR5, about 64. That's 12 times faster. And the next generation, HBM4, pushes bandwidth past 2 terabytes per second. The catch? HBM and your phone's memory are made from the exact same raw material, and that's where the trouble starts. This is what most people don't realize. HBM and your phone's memory aren't made in separate factories. They come from the same DRAM silicon, the same production lines, the same limited capacity. The difference is that HBM is incredibly expensive to make. Every gigabyte uses roughly 3 times the wafer space of standard memory. Why? Because you have to drill thousands of holes through each die, grind the wafers thinner than a human hair, then stack 12 to 16 of those ultra-thin layers with perfect alignment. The whole process ends up 85% less dense than regular memory. So every wafer that gets turned into HBM for an AI data center is a wafer that can't become the memory inside your next phone. It's a zero-sum game. Now, you might think manufacturers would just build more. The problem is, only 3 companies make DRAM. Samsung holds about 43%, SK Hynix about 35%, and Micron about 20%. That's it. 3 companies, over 90% of the world's memory, and all 3 are pivoting hard towards AI. SK Hynix controls up to 60% of all HBM, and they're sold out through 2026. Samsung started mass-producing HBM4 in February and is planning a 50% capacity surge, all for AI. And then there's Micron. In December 2025, they killed Crucial, 29 years old, one of the most trusted names in consumer memory, gone. Because every wafer going to consumers was a wafer not going to a hyperscaler paying premium margins. On top of that, the Stargate project signed for up to 900,000 DRAM wafers per month. That single deal is roughly 40% of global output. So what does this all add up to? Data centers will consume 70% of all memory chips produced in 2026. That leaves 30% for everything else. Your phone, your laptop, your car, your TV, all fighting over less than a third of global supply. And IDC is calling this a permanent reallocation, not temporary, permanent. DRAM prices nearly doubled in the first quarter of 2026 compared to late 2025. Counterpoint expects another 40 to 50% on top of that. Inventory went from a comfortable 13 to 17 weeks of supply down to just 2 to 4 weeks. That's running on fumes. And capacity for 2027 and 2028 is already sold. Now, let's talk about what this means for your wallet. The average smartphone just hit an all-time record of $523, up 14% from last year. Global shipments dropped nearly 13%, the lowest in over a decade. Budget phones under $100 are essentially ceasing to exist because manufacturers can't afford the memory components. Budget phones that used to ship with 8 gigs of RAM are now dropping to 4. It's being called RAM shrinkflation. And the damage goes beyond phones. NVIDIA's RTX 50 series production was cut 30 to 40%. The PC market could shrink 9%. The auto industry is bracing for a repeat of the pandemic chip shortage. So what's being done? A lot, but none of it is fast. Micron is building a $100 billion megafab in New York, the largest private investment in state history. But the first wafers won't come off that line until 2030, with full build-out in 2041. SK Hynix expanded its Yongin cluster budget from $85 to $410 billion, making it the world's largest HBM hub when it opens in 2027. The U.S. government chipped in $6 billion in CHIPS Act grants plus $7.5 billion in loans for Micron. The problem? Building a fab takes 3 to 5 years, and almost all new capacity is targeting AI, not consumer products. IDC says the earliest meaningful relief is mid-2027, with real price stabilization not expected until 2028. The memory industry has permanently restructured around AI. This isn't a cycle that swings back. Bloomberg projects HBM revenue will account for half of the entire global DRAM market by 2030. Micron killing Crucial after 29 years wasn't just a business move. It was the signal that cheap consumer memory is over. For the next few years, your phone will cost more, it might ship with less RAM than it should, and the budget options you used to have just won't exist. The technology that's supposed to make computing smarter is right now making the device in your pocket more expensive. If you found this helpful, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into AI infrastructure and technology explained.